In the mix.
With the commish, Nate.
And that was a little weird. Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome to Press Pass Live, your weekly OMFL podcast show. I'm your host, the commish, Nate. Let me welcome in my buddy, your coach of the Detroit Lions, Mr. Trey. How you doing today, bud?
Still trying to put words in my head about what happened this morning, but nonetheless.
A big victory for your Detroit Lions, even though the Dallas Cowboys had two kickoff return touchdowns. Crazy game, back and forth, super tight, and I missed exactly what happened, but somehow you got a fumble or an interception or something to get the ball back in that game and get a victory for yourself.
Yeah, Cameron Sutton was sitting in a cover 2 zone and actually thrown properly and got an interception with like 24 seconds left.
Well, there you go. Let's jump into it, man. Let's talk a quick recap of what has happened in the last couple of advances, and then we're going to jump right into it and start to talk award show. It has been a crazy season 106, but we're at the very, very end of it. I feel like there's been some craziness that has happened here. I played my game last night, and it took two onside kicks that I almost got the second that would have actually won the game for me had I got it and been able to go down and score. It was just a crazy ending of my game. Let's take a quick look at week 16 and a little bit that has happened here in week number 17. Anything happened in those last two advances that sticks out to you?
Week 16, was it like some sort of OMFL, NFL mix? The undefeated teams all lost. It was weird. Our week lined up with the NFL this week, and the Kobe and the Jets took their loss, and Cincy and the Steelers took a loss. It was two aspects I didn't expect to happen.
Yeah, I didn't get to watch this game. I watched like the beginning of it, but then I had to leave, and so I came back later to see the score of the Washington Commanders and Jets game. Just a crazy game. Meek falls to Tennessee. Just craziness happening all over the place. Miami getting a 30-22 victory over the Dallas Cowboys. Just lots and lots of craziness to happen all over the place. And week number 17 is not disappointing us. Your Detroit Lions with a 27-24 victory over the Dallas Cowboys. Atlanta sneaking past the Chicago Bears this morning, 27-24. Carolina with a 36-32 victory over Jacksonville. Saints fall to Tampa Bay 34-28. That one wasn't even really that close. And Kansas City and Kansas City and the Chiefs fall to Denver and the Bengals 31-24. I know that he hopped in the chat of my game last night, and I see Sharks fan in the chat right now, but a really close game between those two. So we're coming down to the very, very end. We got a couple more games left to go here in week number 17. Then we're off to week number 18. We're going to put a pretty bow on this one. And then I get to, since I'm sitting on the sideline, call some games for the OMFL playoffs this year. It should be a ton of fun. I can't wait to see exactly how it jumps into it. Man, we've got a couple of OMFL news, but before we get there, it sounds like you got something to say. We'll cover some news, and then it's prediction time for the award show. Do you have something?
No.
Oh, you gave me a big huff and puff there, and I thought it was like, oh, he's got something to say. He's ready to jump into it. Okay, let's jump over here, and we're going to get to the OMFL news brought to you by our guy Denbrew again this week, and I appreciate him for making time to do that. Denbrew, take it away.
Hey, welcome back. OMFL news. We are in season 106. We just advanced to week 17. And it's been a great day. My Bengals got the victory. I got to go down and see him in person today. None other than LC, your Cleveland Browns owner here in the OMFL, invited me down. So we hooked up, drove down to Cincinnati, watched our Bengals struggle for most of the game, but they came away with a victory. The defense stepped up big time at the end of the game and was able to steal one away from the Seattle Seahawks. It was a great day. And I'm looking through the Discord chat, and I'm seeing that we got 7 teams in the AFC that are locked into the playoffs before we even play one game here in Week 17. There could be some tweaking when it comes to seeding, but we know the 7 teams, and I'm looking at the matchups here inside the CFM of what Madden is predicting, and the 2-7 matchup jumps off the chart. Pittsburgh and Miami, Des Ridder at one quarterback. I forget the guy's first name for the Dolphins QB, but I believe it. Is it Hitchens? I could be wrong. Doesn't matter. Those two guys have been slinging the rock. They're what are they? 1-2, 1-3, 2-3, far as touchdowns thrown in the OMFL. That'll be a heck of a matchup. Tons of points will probably be scored, so hopefully that one holds true. Love to see that matchup. There's some other cool ones that are in there as well, and we'll get into those a little bit later on. But I'm going to send it back to Nate and Trey. Let those guys talk for a minute. See you.
Mr. Jibber made me laugh. He said, I'm going to bring the energy this week. I was like, all right, I'm looking forward to it. Man, let's jump into it. We're going to do a couple of different things. We're going to do offensive and defensive player of the year, offensive rookie of the year, defensive rookie of the year, and then just coach of the year, and just kind of give some previews. So we'll do player of the year on both sides of the ball. We'll go to some OMFL news. Then we'll come back. We'll do rookie of the year on both spots, the last news, and then we're going to open up the OMFL mailbag. Mr. Trey, you ready to jump into this, buddy?
I am ready.
I'm going to give you first crack at all of these because I feel like you're so much more plugged in than I can be oftentimes. Give me your offensive player of the year nominee. Who do you think is going to get it?
If I had to put my finger on one person, he's kind of tailed off the last few weeks, but he had such a dominant start to the season and has done what few running backs can do. And that's Jonathan Taylor. He has 296 carries for over 2,000 yards now and 20 touchdowns. Adding in a receiving aspect to it, he's not really known there, if has any. He has 23 catches for 174 yards. That's very rare air to get over 2,000 as a running back. Plus the touchdowns, I think that's what puts him just over the hump of Mr. Cooper Kupp in his 2,100-yard season, but only 12 touchdowns.
This one feels like the easy choice just because of the red-hot start that he got off to, including 144 yards per game, which is by far leading the OMFL. Since he's in the chat, just want to point out to my guy Shocks, why'd you do this? I don't understand, Shocks. Why did you give Isaiah Pacheco to the San Francisco 49ers? Anyway, just want to point out also that McCaffrey's way at the bottom there with 15 touchdowns. Pacheco's got 27 touchdowns, 600 yards, and now is going to be an X factor before we all know it. I'm going to go to the other side of the football, and I got to talk about my guy. Oh, I didn't stop on the right one. Mr. Steven Ryder. Steven Ryder, quarterback for your Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 38 interceptions, only 38 touchdowns, only 19 interceptions. One could argue, though, Aaron Rodgers has also had a superb season, 47 touchdowns. He's got less interceptions. He's got more completion percentage, but he's Aaron Rodgers. You know what I mean? It's like he's got it all. He does it all. I got to go Steven Ryder. To do this with a guy that is not fully built out, he is the Madden import. He comes over here, and the guy just goes nuts this season. And I single-handedly seen him in this week's game go almost perfect passing the ball. I think I single-handedly have bumped him up 10 percentage points in that last game. Steven Ryder's had a superb season. I think should be in the running for offensive player of the year, but I think there are plenty of other guys as well. Like we both picked ours, but Aaron Rodgers has to be in the conversation. 47-14 is just crazy talk. There's a lot of other great quarterbacks, Gordon Hitcherson, but listen, 31 interceptions, man, that's just tough. That's tough to look at. 31 interceptions is a lot of interceptions. We were just talking about Pacheco at 1,600 yards, but he's pretty far away. It's 1,500 yards for Fournette, but only 13 touchdowns. We didn't even talk about the receivers. 111 receptions for Cooper Kupp, 2,100 yards, 12 touchdowns. Chase 21 touchdowns. Jalen Hyatt's got 111 receptions with 19 touchdowns. There are some really, really good players on the offensive side of the ball, but I also like the guys that we picked. I think there are going to be some good players and some good races as we get to the end of our season here. Let's turn the ball, though. Let's talk about the side of the ball that I feel like is the only side of the ball I've played half decent on, and that's in the defensive side of the ball. Give me your defensive player of the year.
I'm going to throw it inside your division, Nate, so you'll have a first-hand knowledge of this. I've also experienced it, and it's one A.J. Terrell Jr. 15 interceptions, 2 tackles for a loss, 68 tackles in total, 4 pass deflections, and a touchdown. That's unheard of in this day and age.
Yeah, AJ's had a spectacular season. Also, a guy that can turn a game around pretty quickly, even in a Madden that I feel like isn't like known for the cornerbacks. Right, 2 Maddens ago, even last Madden a little bit. Right, it was all about the cornerback. This Madden not so much, but Terrell just having a spectacular season. I got to go. There's a bunch of guys here, but there's a couple of guys that I think you just have to just pause and go, holy cow, look at the tackles. I mean, just look at these tackle leaders. They've been making plays all along that side of the ball. And even the side of the ball that we haven't talked a ton because of the sacks, they are down this year. TJ Watt, though, is getting it done. 11 and a half sacks. He has been the key part of that Steelers defense, a roster that I think we all have to agree with has not been a roster that most of us could take and make a run. And yet this guy's going to be 1-2 in the AFC. He's going to be right there. He's going to have lots of home games for the playoffs and make a deep run into the playoffs. And some people think could go all the way to OMFL Bowl 106. I think TJ Watt has become a real reason for that. 33 tackles for loss. So he's making plays in the run game, 11 and a half sacks. No, that's not super gaudy numbers, but for this year, that's probably as good as you're going to get. He's got 3 forced fumbles also. And let's see if he's got some touchdowns. I didn't even look at the touchdowns. No touchdowns this year, but 3 forced fumble is going to put him on the top half of the league. I think TJ Watt is definitely a guy to watch for. Any other players that you think might have an opportunity on the defensive side of the ball?
Playing the realm of corners, you also got to throw Stephon Gilmore in there. He also is another guy that has 15 interceptions on the season. He doesn't have as flashy as numbers as A.J. Terrell with only 64 tackles, but also has 2 TFLs. He's behind with 1 less deflection with 3, and he just hasn't found the end zone. And if I'm throwing A.J. Terrell in there, I have to also throw Stephon Gilmore, who's like barely behind him.
We also got to talk about Micah Hyde. Not only 12 interceptions to put him 3rd in the league, just 3 behind the top 2 guys. But on top of that, I'll just throw 100 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, 5 deflections. Let's see if he, too, has gotten into the end zone. He has. He's got a touchdown on the year. Micah Hyde also has to be in consideration. Not enough safety love out there, but Micah Hyde's getting it done. And it feels like that's something that Bill has done for quite some time now, very underratedly. I don't think gets nearly enough, kind of sexy quotes about his safety play. He's played really, really good on that side of the ball.
I mean, you mentioned Micah Hyde, but if you look right below him in the AFC standings, there's Jordan Poyer with 11 interceptions and 88 tackles. He's got, his safety play is ridiculous.
Absolutely batty. Okay, let's get over here to Mr. Denbrew. He's going to give us our second OMFL news. When we come back, we're going to look at rookies of the year before turning the corner and talking coach of the year. Denbrew, take it away, buddy.
We are back. OMFL news segment number 2. I just got done playing Shocks Fan. I am up way too late for me. I just checked in on the Saints and Bucks. Nate just scored. Made it a 24-14 game, I believe. So we got a little bit of a ball game there in Tampa. Let's check out, I just had a freaking nail biter with Shocks Fan. Came down to literally, as time ran out, he throws one and completes it, and we take him down at the 2-yard line. Freaking nail biter. Let's see what else we got. I'm looking at the Week 17 schedule, see what other kind of games that could end up being nail biters, instant classics, whatever you like to say. Right out of the gates, we got Lions Cowboys. They usually give us some fireworks on the field and sometimes even off the field. I mean, so that could be a good one, right? Falcons Bears. That should be a good one. We got playoff implications right here. The Bears trying to hold on to their lead in the NFC North, and the Falcons trying to keep scratching and making sure that they get that secure that wild card spot. Let's see what else we got in this schedule. 49ers Commanders. San Fran's got to travel to DC. The Commanders just coming off of a week where they upset the Jets. That could be a dandy. What else we got? Steelers Seahawks. Come on. Let me know when that one's playing. I'm tuning in. That's going to be a dandy. Meek and Cincyberg going at it. I think that's about it. I don't see any others that are jumping off the screen at me. I mean, I'd like to see my guy LC, since he hooked me up today with some Bengals tickets. I'd like to see him give Kobe a battle, but that may be a tough hill to climb for the Browns, but we'll see. All right, that takes care of segment number 2. Tried to keep the energy up this go around. I'll be back for the last one here shortly. Thank you.
Mr. Denver making me laugh over here, trying to keep the energy up, even though it's super late at night and I don't have any energy. I don't know what's up with my computer, y'all. This is the problem with Press Pass Live on a Mondays. I've been working all day, so this poor little computer's red hot. And I have not upgraded my computer just yet. Let's talk Offensive Rookie of the Year. This is going to be fun to think about import rookies and just like NFL rookies and who kind of goes where. I'm turning it over to you, though, Mr. Trey. What do we think about Offensive Rookie of the Year?
See, this is where it gets hard because a lot of our imports this year that were rookies did not get placed on rookie players. So
most did not.
I've had to do some stifling around to try and figure out if there was any information about players. Most of the guys were put on 1 years if they were in import, so it made it a little bit easier to figure it out. But I think it's honestly a 4-horse race, and I'm thankful that because I ran a rookie offense, I have 2 horses in said race. I think the race is definitely between Gordon Hitchens of the Miami Dolphins. He's got almost 5,000 yards passing, 42 touchdowns. Yes, he has the interceptions that have been a big question mark in that race. You then look over to the New York Giants and wide receiver Jalen Hyatt. As we mentioned earlier, he's got, I think it's 111 receptions for almost 2,000 yards. He'll probably crack that this week. And almost 20 touchdowns. That's numbers that, you don't really see often. It has been a bit concerning given he's double almost every player on his, actually I think is double the receptions as almost every player on his team. So come on people, stop Jalen Hyatt. You stop the Giants. It's simple as that. And then obviously I got my 2-horse race in there with Jamar Gibbs being up there in tops of the league for rushing with 225 yards carries for 1,429 yards and 4 touchdowns, as well as adding into the receiving aspect of it with, I think he's almost at 300 yards receiving. Could be wrong on that aspect. 38 catches for 376 yards and 4 touchdowns. And then obviously my quarterback, Hendon Hooker, being in there as well with 3,600 yards passing, 31 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, but he also added 340 yards rushing and a touchdown. I think those are the 4 front runners for offensive rookie of the year in my eyes.
I've got nothing to add. I think those are the 4 top guys that there's probably going to be 1 or 2 that get to also get in there. If I had to pick, look, I'm always going to be a sucker for wide receivers, and I never am one of those guys that like, oh, they spam wide receiver, whatever. Go stop them then. It should be really easy to play defense. And I know that Colin has a bad habit or record of spamming wide receivers to get records around here. Of course, we've seen what Tim did with Cooper Kupp. It is what it is. Go and stop it. But Jalen Hyatt has put up some pretty spectacular numbers with the 19 touchdowns. His rack isn't super impressive, but it's also not super low. He's got 128 yards per game, averaging 17.3 yards per catch and 1,925 yards on the season. Those are really good numbers for a rookie, and who knows where he's going to finish that as we kind of close out the books. But look, your two guys are playing spectacular, and Gibbs would probably be one of my top choices, if not the choice. I just think what he brings to the table, the kind of layer he adds to your team, 1,429 yards, a 6.4 average, which out of the top guys in the league, outside of Jonathan Taylor, it's going to put him right behind Jonathan Taylor. Now, I didn't search just by average. I'm just looking at guys, in the top 10 in yards. What are their averages? 13 touchdowns, but look, Hendon Hooker is going to, run some RPO. He's going to pass the ball. You love your reverses in the red zone, so he's not going to get a ton of opportunities to get those rushing touchdowns. Only one fumble on the season. He would probably be my vote if I'm not voting for the wide receiver in Hyatt. Those guys are just spectacular players. All right, let's talk defensive rookie of the year. This one's even harder for me to find because there's just not a ton of rookies making these super massive impacts. But who are the guys on the defensive side of the ball that you think will be in the running?
I honestly think this is a one-horse race.
Really?
Just from what I've seen from all the info, I don't know if there's some hidden imports or whatnot. Will Anderson Jr. on the Texans gives kind of a run for the money in there, but I just don't think it's enough to outdo Lucas Van Ness of the Green Bay Packers.
And he was spectacular, especially early on in the season. I felt like I watched a couple of games where Priest loves to use that defensive line, and he would use this guy and just like rip dudes a new one. 40 tackles, 23 tackles for loss, so making plays in the run game, and 10.5 sacks on the season. Will Anderson's the other guy that you mentioned, 49 tackles, 25 tackles for loss, 8.5 sacks on the season, so he's not too far behind. He should probably get some votes, and listen, we also know that with some of these votes, some owners are not going to vote for dudes that they just don't like, and Priest can be an unlikable character sometimes. He isn't like getting on everyone's Christmas list around here, but I think you hit the nail on the head. There are not a lot of dudes that are sticking out on the defensive side of the ball. I was trying to look through tackles really quick. I didn't see anybody sticking out on the tackle side. We're looking through the interceptions right now. There's nobody really sticking out on the interception side unless there's an import that somehow kind of snuck through here, like Trey was saying. Not a lot of impact rookies, but there's been a good portion of impact offensive rookies. I think it sets up well for the next draft because I think we're going to see some impact rookies come out of the next draft, and I'm hoping with the sliders we can find more pressure and hopefully see some of those numbers also increase. Before we get to the last OMFL news and then get to our Coach of the Year nominees, which I seen Maniac in the chat, Owner of the Year are for guys that didn't give up, guys that kind of represent the OMFL. Coach of the Year is what's been done on the field, and that's what we're going to talk about. Any closing thoughts about rookies and imports? Not as impactful as I kind of originally thought they were going into this.
Yeah, I was expecting a lot of the talent that came out of the draft in real life and from our final draft in Madden 23. I was expecting a lot more impact from guys that got imported. Obviously, I gambled big on leaving Alex Belton behind. Who still had plenty of tread on the tires in order to get an impact defensive end. He's got 5.5 sacks and some TFLs, but he hasn't really been the game-changing X factor I expected him to be. And then you look at some of the real-life rookies. The Kobe traded the Jets' first round pick this year in Will McDonald. He traded him to Seattle, so he took him out of there, and he's done okay in Seattle, but it just shows Kobe knew that guy wasn't going to be as much of an impact player as everybody originally thought.
Yep. I can't wait to see what happens with the draft that we're going to be going into and kind of how those players play one way or the other. All right, because I also think that was the closing thought I was going to say, that Madden drafts are always more impactful than NFL drafts and how they get rated and how they play. I don't know why Madden can't quite figure that connection out, but I always feel like NFL rookies get rated and play less than their Madden generated draft classes that come out. So we'll see how that plays. All right, Denver, let's take it away for our last OMFL news, number 3.
Okay, we are back. Segment number 3, last one. We are in week 17, like I mentioned before, and I like to come up with some funky stats, right? Everybody knows that. Did you know we have already set 2 NFL season records this year? I'll wait for your response. We have. Can you guess what they are? Put it in the chat if you can. Here we go. Stephon Gilmore with 15 INTs and counting. That's a single season record. And what was the other one? Yards, right? Receiving yards. Cooper Kupp, 2,199. That surpassed Calvin Johnson's record of 1,964 set way back in 2012. So Kupp has still got, 2 games to play, so he's just going to add on to that. And we have several more that could very well fall. Let's kind of go through them one by one here. Passing yards, 5,400. Probably not. Passing touchdowns, Peyton Manning holds that at 55, 2013. The closest guy on the board is Aaron Rodgers at 47. He could get hot in the last 2 weeks, but I have a feeling he may be resting that final week if everything's all said and done and locked up for that 1 seed for Kobe. Rushing yards, 2,100, Eric Dickerson. Who do we got close? We got our guy Taylor down there in Orlando with the Condors at 2,026, so that's about to be broken. That's going to go down. LaDainian Tomlinson, 28 touchdowns for the Chargers back in 2006. Pacheco's at 27. That record's going down. We covered receiving yards, receiving touchdowns. Randy Moss with 23. We got Jamar Chase at 21. We got Hyatt with the Giants, 19. That record is in jeopardy of going down. Catches, 149. I don't think we're catching that one. No pun intended. Seriously, no pun intended. Defensive sacks. We're not catching that one, right, folks? INTs we covered. So, yeah, that's it. A bunch of records are going to fall down in season 106, the very first season of this cycle. We're going to shatter some season records. I think that's pretty cool. Thank you. Back to Nate. Back to Trey. See y'all next week. I'm going to sleep.
Mr. Denbrew has got, you know what? There we go. All right, now we're back. Sorry, friends. I turned on my Wi-Fi to transfer some photos, Madden photos, from my phone to my computer, and I forgot to turn it back off because I'm heavily hardwired, and it needs to stay just like that. So, what's Maniac's deal? Is Maniac just like out to piss me off today? What's your deal today, Maniac? I don't go poking at you. He's in here talking. We're not talking about Parker Colt. We're not talking about the Falcons rookie. We're not. Oh, Rangers are up 4-0. Get out of my chat, Maniac. You're banned from the chat today. Go do something else. Anyway, let's talk Coach of the Year here. There's a lot of teams that could possibly win this. We got a bunch. So you gather yourself here, all right? Let's talk Coach of the Year. I let you go first on the other ones. I'm going to go first on this one. I think there are a lot of teams here that we could talk about. And a lot of these are teams that we often talk about. No, Maniac will not. Matter of fact, Maniac won't even make the ballot. That I promise you. I will make sure of it. Anyway, I'm just joking. There's 2 that really come to mind. I'd actually say 3. And then I'll pick the one that I think I would vote for. And I'm purposely avoiding the names that we always talk about. There are guys that are always going to be on this list. This might be the biggest list out of our votes because there's a lot of guys I think that should be at least considered. But I would say Seahawks number one. They're sitting at 11-4, and I know that they've had some unsexy losses as of late, but he has played really good football, and I think he deserves to at least be on the ballot. You got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Kevin, 13-3 in an NFC South that have a lot of really good coaches, a lot of really good playmakers, and he has taken another team that we can see in the NFL is not spectacular, and yet with the quarterback playing great defense, he has turned that thing around, and he's sitting here at 13-3. And then finally, the team that I talked about a while ago, the Steelers at 14-1. That to me is the most impressive job that has been done this offseason. 585 points scored at the winners, the top portion of the league. That's going to put him number one. He may not be number one in the entire league, but I'm just looking at the top 7 teams here. And then on defense, he's still going to be in the upper portion of that, 393 yards. Anytime you score that many points, you're probably going to give up a lot of points. Steelers, Bucks, and Seahawks, I think, deserve to be on the ballot. They deserve consideration. And if I had to vote, I would have to vote for the Steelers. That is super impressive what he's done with that team, what he's done with that quarterback. I mean, I've got my own not rookie quarterback, but low-level quarterback that I'm trying to build up, and that just feels so impossible, and yet he's got a guy that's working out for him. Give me your coach of the years, and who would you vote for?
I definitely agree with all those that you put on. Obviously excluding the names, like Kobe and Wayne. I think one guy that gets underlooked at, especially because he's not known for having a spectacular offense and style and being in that top class. I think Shocks deserves to get a look this year. He's quietly been keeping pace with almost everybody. He's putting a great offense together. Like you mentioned with Cincy and giving up yards. He's got a big play offense. It comes at the sacrifice of his defense, but his defense isn't really that much worse than when it comes to Cincy and his team. A few breaks in that he could very well be, instead of 10-5, he could be 13-2 like the rest of the crew.
So who are you voting for?
If I had to stick my flag with somebody, I would probably definitely stick it with Cincy, just because that Steelers roster is quite a mess, and he still found a way to produce essentially what he did with a mess of a team last year.
Yep. As you know, I absolutely agree. All right, let's turn the page here and get to some OMFL mailbag before we wrap up the show. We got one from Bronco Man, one from Shocks, another from Bronco Man, and then one from our guy Massimo. Mr. Bronco Man, what are some teams who had a down year that you can see bouncing back next season, and why?
Teams that had rough years and bounce back next. That's hard to say.
I'd say Giants. I got to go Giants. Yeah. He's 2-13. He's got Yannick, who we know has put up spectacular numbers. You see what he's doing with Hyatt. He's got to figure out some consistency on the offensive side of the ball. Who knows what he does with Saquon? My assumption is that he would keep him, but it wouldn't surprise me if he flips him for some picks and goes and drafts him his next guy. He'll find out.
He can keep him.
That's true. If he can keep him, look, he'll figure out some things with this team. I think he is the number one team at the top of this list that I think can flip things around in a quick.
You say that, but then I also have to say there's two other candidates that just looking off of hand, and I'd have to say one would be Deep. I don't think he's gonna go. He's got nowhere to go but up.
Yeah.
This season. Let's just put it that way. I think he'll find his rhythm with the off season and kind of build more around what his style is. And another one I think Joker is going to find his rhythm. Yeah. I think Kyler Murray is not going to be with Arizona. I think that's going to be actually being shopped out there. He's going to find a quarterback that fits more of his play style. I feel like he'll be able to contend for that second seed in the NFC West.
If I had to pull some other teams out of my hat, I'd say Eagles and Ravens, but I think I'll always kind of mention those two teams. You just never know, but I think they could turn things around. And then the Browns, I think Little Koch will get that quarterback situation figured out. That's what really hurt him this year. He'll get it turned around, and he'll get it rolling. Shocks fan, what is the number one current recent rule change that you wish you could take back? When I read this, my first knee jerk was none. There are things about the game I wish were different, right? There are definitely some things that I wish, just played differently. But even as I was watching Dallas and Detroit today, I was like, I wish there were some things that were different about this game, but they are the game. That is what we have. I don't know that I have any rule changes that I wish I could take back, also because I kind of make up the rules around here. And so if there's something that was really bothering me for a realistic reason and the board supported it, we would just put it back. One that I'm sort of playing with is the 80-20 rule, since we've lowered fatigue so much, and it's still sort of an option, but like I don't know that it's nearly going to kick in like it was earlier this season when it was pretty high. We may need to bring back the 80-20 rule. It's kind of putting you on the spot, though. Any rules that you would like to see come back? I don't know. It's a weird question to ask.
It wouldn't be come back, it'd be more get rid of. And that would be the ability to audible. There was a few times, like even today, like I made some reads of like, Wayne's pressing me. I'm running the ball. The box is stacked. A wrap. I either waste a timeout or I just go with it. And I won't waste a timeout over play calling. I just won't. They definitely would like be able to call audibles, but likewise, I think it's also changed a lot of the dynamic inside the OMFL. And as much as I also want it to be changed, I also don't want it to, because it provides that extra challenge. So it's balanced out in a way. But so if I had to pick one, it'd be two audible more. But likewise, I like that we don't.
Yeah, that's totally fair. And also the exact scenario that you spelled out is exactly why that rule will probably never come back, because that's exactly what we want. We want guys to now go, oh, do I want to use a timeout here, or did my play calling need to change? Is he going to stack the box on this down? Oh, I've been running really well. He might stack the box. Maybe now's the time for the shot. All those things. Plus, I do like the fact that we've now added in the audibles every 3 minutes of every quarter instead of the half. And so you do have a few more opportunities than in the past, but also play calling really matters. So, Bronco Man, what team do you think can hit on a quarterback in the draft and be a legit contender? Well, I can tell you one who won't now, Bronco Man, my dumb self, because I had to go win a couple of games here at the end and pull myself out of contention. But these top teams know that I am calling. I'm going to come calling. I'm going to ring your doorbell. I'm going to ask what is the ransom price for one of these top, 6 picks or whatever I got to get in to get a quarterback. Who do you think is going to be out there for a quarterback, and who do you think might be able to grab them one?
You asked for these top 6 picks, but looking at it, like there's only like one team that needs a quarterback in that scenario. Right. And it's Joker, because he's
Broncos need one.
I guess, Broncos too. So I guess 2 people. So
You're right,
in terms of that quarterback rebound, it's really between those two. So I guess I would say more than likely Joker, because he's shown even with the quarterback he hates, he can contend. He's just, he doesn't have that quarterback that fits his style. You don't get a quarterback that fits his style, and he maybe wins a few more of those games instead of losing, or even wins that tie.
I'd be interested to see, do the Vikings punt on their quarterback, or do they keep building him? Broncos definitely need one. Giants, no way. Texans also. I just feel like Roger just doesn't like his guy, and he doesn't have a big arm. So it wouldn't super surprise me to see Raj go after a quarterback. Rams, no way. Jaguars, no way. Titans shouldn't be, but again, you never know what the Titans are going to do, because I don't know that he loves his quarterback situation. Ravens, no way. Raiders, yes, need a quarterback. Browns, yes, need a quarterback. Also, wouldn't be surprising if Raiders, Browns try to move up.
Now, do you really think the Browns, though, he's been rocking with, Dorian
There's
Thompson,
no way. You think he
Robinson?
sticks with him?
I mean, if I've proven anything, low overall quarterbacks don't really matter as long as you play well.
I don't know. I think you're the outlier in that situation, not the rule. Eagles,
Yeah, maybe.
also a team. Don't think he loves his quarterback.
I say that, though, but then since he's also proven with Desmond Ridder, who's the low overall.
Again, outlier, not the rule. I mean, I think if you find the right low-rated quarterback, maybe. But I also think there's a lot of other factors, especially with those two teams that you named, play calling and other playmakers that play a lot into the fact. I did a quarterback, and I clearly couldn't play worth a poop with him and ended up having to punt that, even though I may bring him back for this last game. Massimo.
He's not too bad with Dorian Thompson Robinson.
No, he may stick it out. I just would be surprised with that. We'll have to see. I also don't know his full ratings, like how bad or good his arm is and other stats. Massimo.
He's a superstar development.
Ooh.
With 92 throw power and outside of his
he probably sticks with him then.
mid-80s.
How the hell did he get that kid up to superstar development? Good for you, little coach. I clearly need to go to school with some of you and get you guys to teach me how to do this. Massimo, what are some... What? Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I think he uses incentives to do that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that would make sense. Get him up to star and then get some development opportunities throughout the season.
I think he uses both his upgrades. I think he uses normal to star, then his star to superstar.
That would make sense. Massimo, what are some of the best imports that were bought over from last year's Madden? You and I were just talking about this as we were going through our award show. There's not a lot of them, right? There's not a lot of guys that really stuck out to the tippy top of that. I felt like you've seen a lot of defensive tackles come over, and the defensive line just as a whole has not been great. So there's that. And the ones who had decent seasons are usually at the skill positions. And Massimo's quarterback, I think, was the best out of all that. But at the same time, he threw 50 interceptions or whatever it was, or may throw 50 interceptions for the end of the season. Who are some of the imports that you thought made a big difference?
There's few and far between the actual imports that made impacts. Hitchens is the one that comes off at hand. I mentioned, my guy, he's done all right, but he's not the impact player. If I'm correct, after my conversation following our game, I believe the man that took the 2 kick return back on me is import.
Yeah, he is, but he was hurt for a large majority of the season, and now that we've kind of muted kicks a little bit, even though we've seen in your game, you still weren't able to get out of the back of the end zone. So
yeah,
I think
offensively he's not an impact, but he's definitely an impact in the return.
Yeah, and I think he will be an impact offensively. I just got to get the quarterback situation figured out, and I got to keep him healthy. He missed a big portion of the season getting hurt. So imports, a little bit down from what we've seen the last couple of Maddens. Big Hurt's talking about the Falcons cornerback Shepard, who's had a pretty decent season. But again, these are decent seasons. These are no one who's kind of flying out of it and running away with any kind of special awards or anything. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens moving forward, especially with these imports and as guys rebuild teams. I think it's a slower process to rebuild some of these teams. It's not like automatic and season 1 turnarounds. All right, that's going to bring it into the show. Give me a final thought as we wrap up Press Pass Live on a Monday.
My final thought, I completely forgot to rule out my homeboy. I guess I should count him in impact because, he's led the way for over 2,000 yards rushing, and that's Cameron Reese. just to get under your skin a little bit there, dude.
You and Cameron Reese. fullback in air quotes, fullback. Closing thoughts are, I think, look, we just had the show on Friday as my computer continues to melt down. I don't know what this computer problem is. It should be fine, but Mac just had a massive update that makes this thing run way hotter than it should be. So anyway, final thoughts, since we just had a show on Friday, sort of bring me back to this idea of culture and the culture that we've built here. And I just think it is a lazy take to blame me and the Sliders for people having a rough go. Sometimes you just have a rough game, and sometimes you just don't play up to potential, and sometimes you make bad throws and bad decisions, and sometimes you just got outplayed. And sometimes, as we know Madden does, you show up and Madden's like, no, not today. Sorry, you don't get to win today. Everything that could go wrong is we're gonna make you fumble. We're gonna make them get all the breaks. We're gonna make them catch tip. Like sometimes Madden just isn't nice to you. But this notion that Nate sits on his hands and does nothing, and like, I'm not plugged in and I'm not watching, I'm not paying attention, I'm not seeing what's out in the Madden world, is a lazy take. And I wish we were a little bit more kind to the leaders here, and that we just kind of shut our mouth when we were angry and walked away from it and chilled out and then came back later. So that's the big thing, that like we're not even to the end of season 1, and I've been so frustrated myself dealing with just situations that were out of my control to fix immediately, and that were going to take time, and that people were just being very impatient about. I think there's also going to be the vibe, Trey, that happens to all of us, that when we're not winning, we are nasty in chat, we bring bad energy. These are things I wish some of our more vocal owners would work on, because you offer more to the OMFL than being a negative Nancy. And so that's one thing that I hope changes moving forward, because if not, we're not going to make it to the end of this cycle, team. I'm way too old and way too busy to babysit grown men who can't just get it together. And the fact is, I'll just ask you to go play somewhere else. No big deal. Not a threat, not veiled, not out of hate or spite. I just ask you to go play somewhere else. Didn't work. Sorry. So hopefully we can bring better energy, and the off season always kind of re-energizes everybody, and the draft shows are always a ton of fun. And I got one more game, and then I can start worrying about the draft and trying to do some trades. Trades brings good energy. People love to trade. So hopefully all that stuff hits the reset button, at least for the first 4 weeks of next season. Then everybody's going to start whining and complaining again. Trey, thanks for taking time for hanging out with me on a Monday. I got to go conserve some energy because I got church here in just a little bit. I love you guys. Thanks for hanging out with us, and we'll catch you on the next one, okay? Love you. Peace.
Smash that like and subscribe.